President Trump is sticking with the playbook, election denial. The president hopped on Truth Social, as he does on most nights, to claim without evidence that Democrats were, quote, trying to steal the primaries for California governor and L.A. mayor. He offered, surprise, surprise, no facts to support his claim, pointing only to a predictably slow counting process in a state with a huge volume of mail-in voters, which has always been the case, and he has always known. After all, he's now been in politics for more than 12 years. Joining us, former Democratic congressman for New York and senior advisor for VoteVets, Max Rose. James Sample, still with us as well. All right, so, I mean, California, they do count very slowly, Max, very slowly. But this has always been the case. How much traction does he get on an accusation like that?
This is what Donald Trump always does.
Yeah, it's
right?
kind of tiresome now, isn't it?
It's horrifying because amidst I think really the Democratic Party has turned itself in the right direction in terms of its willingness to go on the offense, its willingness to really use the power at its disposal. It's been a change, right direction. On this front, though, I still think it's a blind spot. That somehow there's this thing about Donald Trump where we're like, 2020 did the steal, January 6th, the whole thing. That won't happen again. There's zero doubt in my mind that he will be using this language and attempting to use the powers at his disposal for this midterm election.
He said they're under investigation. The California vote process is under investigation. Should we take him at his word that it's under investigation and that something might be happening at DOJ?
We should take him at his word that he wants there to be an investigation, and we should take him at his word that what he wants from DOJ, he typically gets. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to get any traction on a legal level. It doesn't mean they'll get traction in the courts. I mean, we saw 60 lawsuits filed in federal court in 2020. Not successful ones, right? Press releases dressed up as legal complaints. So do I take him at his word that they're going to investigate? Of course I take him at his word that they're going to investigate. And of course I take him at his word that he's going to try and generate PR that can then become the predicate for further investigation, right? And to a certain extent, this is the cart before the horse. This is a strategy of saying there's a problem over and over and over again so that people believe there's a problem.
He has been doing this for so long now. I mean, we had a bunch of Republicans. There's that famous blind quote. Not blind quote, anonymous quote that said, we're just going to let him have his fun. Like, just let him say it. What harm can he do? He's leaving. And then, as you rightly pointed out, there was January 6th. How much more appetite is there among Republican lawmakers, the ones in positions of power on this, to continue placating the president or humoring the president on this? We've already experienced January 6th once. A lot of them were there. I know they diminish it now, but they were scared in the moment. Are they going to be in a place where they're going to continue diminishing it, and they might be faced with something like this again?
It's unlimited. It's unlimited at this point.
Why do I even ask if there's a red line? Why do I ask if there's a floor?
First of all, in Donald Trump's first primary in Iowa, more than 10 years ago, or close to 10 years ago, he denied.
Because he lost.
Because he lost. This is nothing new, but I'll tell you what is new. As a consequence of this Republican Party's refusal to be anything but a fully owned subsidiary of Donald Trump's political and policy ambitions, they created the largest paramilitary force in the history of this country. The question that we have to ask, and the danger, is how could he utilize ICE to interfere in the upcoming midterm election?
You don't think that the breaks we're seeing in Congress right now mean that much? On the anti-weaponization fund, we had the three non-YOLOs, as we're now describing them, Husted and Collins and Dan Sullivan saying, voting with Democrats to try to ban that.
It's something, but we're still just talking about three. And when you look at the House, look at a guy like Mike Lawler.
You had four people in the House say that they wanted to pull back the war powers.
The numbers that we're talking about, 3, 4.
I mean, when the number was 0 before, 4 feels like a big one.
What matters here is when you look at the direction of the Republican Party, you look at the actions of the leadership, and you look at their foremost, biggest voices. They are unwilling to break with this guy no matter what he says or does. And that is the stakes of this upcoming midterm election.
Until they start to lose. SCOTUS. Tell me about SCOTUS and mail-in ballots.
Well, so there's a pending, I mean, California, we're tracking the mail-in vote. We're tracking how long it takes them to count. California is one of the states that allows for a grace period for ballots that are postmarked by Election Day but arrive
But it's not just a ballot that goes right into a post box. You have to get it posted and signed off on, certified essentially by somebody at the post office.
Right. Just as when you mail your taxes, you can mail them out on April 15th at 11 o'clock at night if you can get to a post office and make sure you get that postmark. The IRS isn't going to reject your money, but there is a movement afoot to reject votes that would meet that same standard. And the Supreme Court has a case pending before it right now called Watson versus Republican National Committee that has not yet been decided. And at oral argument, there were essentially three groups of three. There are three votes that are a little bit hard to read based on oral argument. There are clearly three votes to end this practice to have the Supreme Court end this practice. There may be 5 votes to end the practice.
Would it be retroactive?
It would not be retro. There's no way you could make it retroactive. Certainly not for California.
Well, could it work for November if they decided?
Conceivably, that would be a massive change. There's a principle called the Purcell principle, which says we shouldn't interfere. But realistically,
Alabama.
Right. Realistically, this Supreme Court applies that principle when it's convenient for this Supreme Court to apply that principle for its partisan ends.
All right, gentlemen. Thank you very much.
Brings a briefing book, quotes Supreme Court
He's
cases.
a law professor.
It is very difficult to go on.
He is
TV.
a law professor. He is a
I
smart man. That's why we have him on. Maybe if you did some prep too, you'd become a regular on this show.
Story of my life.
Quote of One Direction now. I mean, we're just getting everyone quoting bands on this show. Bands. They're not a band. They're a boy band. All right, don't go anywhere.